The term Sigma male has been circulating online for years, often wrapped in layers of mystery, misunderstanding, and mixed opinions. To some, it may seem like just another trendy internet label, yet another way to categorize personalities in a world already saturated with social typologies. But to others, the concept resonates on a deeper level. If you found yourself drawn to the idea, even if only in passing, there's a chance you felt that quiet, almost imperceptible tug within your subconscious. It's that subtle inner voice suggesting that the traditional social hierarchies, where dominance or submission define status, never quite fit who you are. This exploration isn't about adopting a persona, mimicking behaviors, or chasing an image. It's not about growing a beard, disappearing into the woods, or projecting a curated stoicism on social media. Rather, it's about unearthing something genuine that's likely been part of your identity all along, hidden beneath years of social conditioning. The Sigma male is not a role to be played. It is a way of existing in a world that simply doesn't conform to typical classifications. Unlike the alpha, who seeks leadership and power, or the beta, who often looks for validation and acceptance, the Sigma operates on a different axis altogether, moving independently, unbound by group dynamics and external definitions. This guide isn't crafted to seduce you into identifying with the Sigma archetype. It isn't here to stroke your ego or lure you into an online subculture. Instead, it functions as a mirror, one meant to reflect back the qualities and instincts you may have buried, ignored, or softened in order to fit into societal molds. The questions that follow are not meant to prescribe a path or dictate how you should be. They are designed to clarify, to illuminate, and perhaps validate the journey you've already been on, whether you acknowledge it consciously or not. This isn't about becoming a Sigma. It's about recognizing that you may already be one. Question 1. The group dynamic test. Do you avoid gatherings even when welcome? When it comes to social settings, most people tend to view gatherings as either necessary obligations or valuable opportunities. These include everything from networking events and family reunions to after-work happy hours with colleagues. For many, such interactions are essential for nurturing relationships, advancing in social or professional circles, or simply avoiding the discomfort of loneliness. These events are part of the social fabric, expected, accepted, and even celebrated. However, for the Sigma male, the equation looks entirely different. His avoidance of group settings isn't rooted in shyness, social anxiety, or a dislike of people. Rather, it's about preserving his energy and protecting his mental space. The Sigma sees to the surface of most social interactions, recognizing that many of them rely on shallow exchanges, hollow small talk, rehearsed jokes, and gossip thinly disguised as conversation. To him, participating in such dynamics feels like an unfair trade, giving away something valuable as time and energy in return for something trivial, fleeting connection, or social approval. It's not disdain, it's discernment. There are key signs that this mindset may resonate with you. Perhaps you decline invitations not due to other obligations, but simply because you prefer the solitude of your own space. When you do show up at gatherings, you might find yourself on the outside of the action, observing rather than engaging, quietly noting the group's unspoken dynamics. Even when the event is enjoyable, you often leave feeling mentally and emotionally depleted rather than uplifted. This pattern is not a sign of antisocial tendencies, but rather a reflection of a deeper preference for meaningful, authentic engagement over noisy, performative interaction. The Sigma male doesn't reject people. He rejects a performance that many social settings demand. If your idea of fulfilling Friday night involves a quiet room, a compelling book, a creative project, or deep introspection instead of the hum of a crowded bar, that isn't something to fix. It may be one of the clearest signs that you're already walking the Sigma path, choosing substance over spectacle and depth over distraction. Question 2. Authority and respect. Do you reject blind obedience? In most areas of life, society is structured around clear hierarchies. There are bosses and employees, leaders and followers, superiors and subordinates. For many people, these roles are accepted without much resistance. Some naturally defer to authority, assuming that titles and positions inherently deserve respect. Others aim to climb the ladder themselves, competing for power within the established system. In either case, The assumption is the same: authority should be acknowledged, and hierarchy is a necessary part of order. But the Sigma male takes a different approach, one that neither blindly obeys nor rebels for the sake of rebellion. He does not challenge authority as an act of defiance, nor does he conform simply to avoid conflict or make life easier. His guiding principle is respect that is earned, not assumed. If a boss, teacher, manager, or any so-called leader has not demonstrated competence, authenticity, or meaningful insight, the Sigma sees no reason to recognize their authority. He may not make a scene or cause disruption, but quietly and firmly, he will operate by his own internal standards, often finding ways to navigate around structures that don't align with his values. There are clear signs of this trait. You may have had mentors or authority figures you genuinely respected, people whose words carried weight because they had proven themselves through action and character. But you've also likely encountered others whose leadership you dismiss without apology, refusing to be swayed by titles alone. You follow rules when they're logical, fair, or efficient, but you do not hesitate to bend or outright break them if they seem arbitrary, restrictive, or senseless. It's not about being difficult. It's about trusting your own moral and intellectual compass above external dictates. And because of this, you may have been labeled stubborn, independent, or hard to manage by those who expected automatic compliance. This resistance to blind obedience isn't rooted in ego or arrogance. For the Sigma male, it reflects a deep commitment to authentic judgment and self-respect. He does not invest energy in fighting every battle or try to reform every system. Instead, he observes, assesses, and, when necessary, quietly steps outside the rules to walk his own path. In a world that often equates submission with cooperation and defiance with rebellion, the Sigma represents a third option: autonomy guided by principle, not pressure. Question 3. The solitude paradox. Do you crave alone time like others crave validation? In a world where constant connectivity and social validation have become the norm, solitude is often viewed as something negative, a punishment, a signal of loneliness, or even social failure. Most people, being inherently social creatures, seek out external affirmation, whether it's through conversations, group activities, or the steady stream of likes, comments, and attention on social media. The desire to be seen and acknowledged runs deep. The idea of spending long stretches of time alone can be not only uncomfortable, but genuinely unsettling for many. But the Sigma male views solitude through a very different lens. For him, time alone isn't something to avoid, it's something to cherish. It's not merely a preference, it's a requirement. Solitude acts as a sanctuary, a sacred space where he can disconnect from external expectations and reconnect with his thoughts, purpose, and internal clarity. While the world around him is glued to screens, endlessly refreshing for digital validation, the Sigma chooses to step inward. In the silence, he finds answers, direction, and strength that others rarely access in their noise-filled environments. There are certain signs that reveal this trait clearly. You may find yourself truly enjoying your own company, even when there are appealing social options available. You're not avoiding people, you're choosing yourself. You don't feel the urge to broadcast your life online or measure your worth by how many people are paying attention. Your sense of value is internal, not determined by external reactions. You've probably been described as too quiet, mysterious, or hard to read, simply because you don't feel compelled to fill silence with small talk or explain yourself in the comfort of others. This isn't a rejection of humanity. It's a strategy of self-preservation and growth. The Sigma's love of solitude is not rooted in isolationism, but in self-mastery. In a world that fears quiet and thrives on constant stimulation, his ability to be still and center becomes a powerful advantage. It makes him unpredictable because he's not driven by external validation. It makes him self-sufficient because he draws strength from within. And most of all, it gives him clarity in a world clouded by noise. Question 4. The human lie detector. Do you read people instantly but reveal nothing? In everyday interactions, most people move through social spaces on autopilot. They engage in conversations out of habit, absorb only the surface of what's being said, and respond with rehearsed politeness or expected reactions. But for the Sigma male, every interaction is a chance to observe, decode, and understand. He is a silent analyst, constantly scanning his environment, not to judge, but to uncover what lies beneath the surface. From the moment he meets someone, he begins reading between the lines, catching subtle inconsistencies in behavior, spotting hidden motives, and sensing the insecurities that others try to mask. What sets the Sigma apart is not just his ability to read people quickly and accurately, but also his disciplined restraint in revealing himself. While he often sees through others with startling precision, he remains mostly unreadable. He doesn't engage in performance. He doesn't overshare in hopes of being understood. His self-disclosure is intentional and selective, offering only what is necessary and nothing more. This calculated reserve isn't coldness, it's control. Where others may rush to connect through vulnerability, the Sigma holds his cards close, sharing only what aligns with his purpose or intention in the moment. There are key signs of this dynamic at play. You may have met people who gave you an immediate bad vibe, only confirm your instincts were spot on as time went on. Perhaps you often find yourself anticipating what someone is about to say, not through magic, but by picking up on their micro-expressions, tone shifts, or behavioral cues. And ironically, despite offering little about yourself, people frequently tell you, "I feel like I know you so well." They don't realize that this sense of intimacy is based more on your presence and attention than on anything you've actually shared. This ability to read deeply while remaining hidden is not a form of manipulation or paranoia. It's a refined skill developed over years of silent observation and strategic restraint. The Sigma male doesn't trust easily or automatically, and that healthy skepticism serves as a shield. It protects him from being deceived, manipulated, or misled. In a world where many rush to project themselves outward, the Sigma's strength lies in his ability to look inward, observe outward, and move forward with clarity and control. Question 5. The small talk dilemma. Does it feel like a waste of energy? Small talk is often seen as a harmless, even necessary, part of social interaction. Conversations about the weather, celebrity gossip, weekend plans, or sports scores serve as a kind of social lubricant. Easy, predictable exchanges that help people feel connected or avoid awkward silences. For most, this kind of chatter is routine, comforting, and sometimes even enjoyable. But for the Sigma male, these surface-level conversations are more than just dull. They're mentally exhausting. To him, small talk is like wading through quicksand. It slows him down, drains his energy, and offers little to no real value. This aversion to superficial conversation isn't rooted in arrogance or a sense of superiority. It's about efficiency and intention. The Sigma doesn't engage in conversation for entertainment or validation. He speaks for two reasons: either to explore or exchange meaningful, thought-provoking ideas, or to acquire information that serve a purpose. If a conversation doesn't fall into either category, he'd much rather remain silent than feign interest in triviality. It's not that he's incapable of playing the social game. He just doesn't see the point in doing so unless it leads somewhere worth going. There are recognizable patterns in this behavior. You might often find yourself mentally checking out during routine or required conversations, nodding along while your mind drifts to more productive or stimulating thoughts. You may have been called too serious or aloof because you don't join in on office banter or group gossip. And when given the choice, you consistently gravitate toward deep one-on-one discussions where real ideas and authentic perspectives are exchanged, rather than wasting time in noisy group chats full of surface-level remarks. This isn't about being antisocial or cold. It's about prioritizing quality over quantity in communication. The Sigma's disdain for small talk is actually a reflection of his respect for his own time and mental space. He would rather contribute nothing than add to the noise, and that deliberate silence often speaks louder than any scripted pleasantries ever could. Question 6. The inner circle. Is your trust rare but unshakable? In today's hyperconnected world, many people treat relationships like a numbers game, collecting friends, followers, and contacts as a measure of social currency. Popularity often becomes synonymous with value, and the ability to accumulate acquaintances is seen as a strength. But the Sigma male doesn't play that game. His approach to relationships is far more selective, deliberate, and rooted in depth rather than breadth. He doesn't form bonds casually or out of convenience. Instead, his trust is earned slowly, and once it's granted, it carries a weight that is almost sacred. The Sigma's inner circle is typically very small, often consisting of just a handful of people, sometimes even fewer. But those few are not accidental. Each person in his life has been quietly evaluated over time, tested not through formal criteria, but through real-world moments: loyalty in silence, consistency in adversity, and authenticity in interaction. These people may be childhood friends who stood the test of time, or rare allies met in adulthood who have proven themselves through actions, not words. To the Sigma, loyalty is never assumed. It is observed and confirmed. And while he gives trust sparingly when he does, it becomes unshakable. He will go to great lengths to protect and support those he has brought into his circle. However, that trust is a one-way gate. Once betrayed, the door does not reopen. There are no dramatic confrontations or long explanations. Instead, the Sigma simply disappears from the relationship, removing the person silently and permanently. This is not done out of spite, but from a principle of emotional self-respect. He doesn't waste time trying to fix what has shown itself to be flawed. You might recognize this pattern in your own life. Perhaps you maintained a few deep, lasting friendships since childhood, while many others have faded without effort or regret. You likely feel no pressure to be liked or accepted by everyone, only to be respected by those who matter. And you may have ended relationships without confrontation, instinctively recognizing when someone failed to meet your unspoken standards of integrity, honesty, or loyalty. This intensely selective loyalty is not a weakness. It's a form of emotional discipline. The Sigma male understands that most relationships are built on mutual benefit or surface-level engagement. He chooses not to invest in those. Instead, he builds a fortress of trust around a few who have proven themselves worthy. And in doing so, he creates a space where sincerity, loyalty, and unwavering support can truly thrive. Question 7. The alpha/beta dichotomy. Do you reject both without trying? In many social and organizational settings, people often find themselves either vying for dominance or following those who have claimed it. The alpha male seeks to lead, assert control, and claim status, while the beta male is more likely to follow, support, and defer to others. The Sigma male, however, operates outside of the traditional power dynamic altogether. He neither strives for dominance nor submits to those who do. Instead, he simply opts out of the game entirely. The rules of the alpha/beta hierarchy never quite resonate with him because, on a fundamental level, he doesn't recognize or participate in them. This detachment isn't an overt choice. It's an innate quality, an almost instinctual disinterest in the social power struggles that consume others. For the Sigma, these dynamics of dominance and submission hold no appeal. He's never been motivated by the desire to be at the top of the social ladder, nor has he ever felt the need to conform or seek validation from those above him. You've likely never felt the pressure to compete for status within a workplace, friendship circle, or social group. The concept of a pecking order has always seemed irrelevant to you. If you found yourself in competitive situations, you've probably been more interested in your own performance than in comparing yourself to others. The Sigma male doesn't need to lead, but often, when crises arise or difficult decisions need to be made, people naturally turn to him. This may happen not because he seeks the role of leader, but because his quiet confidence, decisiveness, and ability to remain calm under pressure draws people in and inspires respect. This resistance to fitting into traditional roles is often why others find the Sigma hard to define or categorize. You may be described as hard to pin down or even mysterious because you don't conform to conventional labels like alpha or beta. You don't take on the trappings of the classic leader or follower. You simply walk your own path. This independence from the traditional alpha/beta dichotomy makes the Sigma unpredictable. He doesn't follow the rules others play by, and as a result, he remains difficult to control, manipulate, or influence. His strength lies in his self-sufficiency and ability to operate on his own terms, unbound by societal expectations of hierarchy and power. Question 8. The lifelong observer. Have you always felt like an outsider watching? From a young age, you may have found yourself standing slightly apart from the crowd, more of an observer than an active participant in social dynamics. While others were swept up in the thrill of group activities or the rush of following the crowd, you were often the one quietly watching, studying, and analyzing human behavior. You noticed patterns in how people interacted, and even as a child, You had a sharp awareness of the hypocrisies that others overlooked. Authority figures may have seemed inflated or disingenuous to you, and you could recognize social games long before you understood their names. You weren't disconnected from the world. You were simply more aware of its complexities and contradictions. This detachment is often misunderstood as cynicism or detachment, but for the Sigma male, it's a form of clarity. It's not about rejecting the world. It's about understanding it at a deeper level. You see beyond the surface level interactions and social masks that people wear, and this gives you a level of insight that others often miss. You may not have cared for the drama or complexity that others seem to thrive on, because you instinctively understood the futility of much of it. As a result, you have the ability to predict outcomes in ways that others can't. You may have known that a relationship was doomed long before the breakup occurred, or sense an impending failure at work well in advance. When people later express surprise at how accurately you saw things unfold, you simply nod. This is an intuition. It's pattern recognition developed through years of careful observation. Growing up, you were probably labeled as the quiet one in groups, not because you were shy or withdrawn, but because you were constantly absorbing information, scanning your surroundings, and understanding the unspoken dynamics that others were too caught up in to notice. You didn't need to speak to understand. You simply watched, listened, and processed. As a result, you were often several steps ahead of others in understanding motivations, relationships, and social interactions. You saw patterns in human behavior that went unnoticed by the majority. Those subtle signals, body language shifts, and micro-expressions that reveal the truth beneath the surface. This observational prowess is not just a passive skill. It is a weapon. While others are reacting impulsively to the world around them, the Sigma is always several steps ahead, anticipating what's coming next. The ability to see through the noise and confusion gives him the power to act decisively, strategically, and with clarity when the time is right. His ability to stay detached while understanding the full scope of the situation makes him unpredictable and highly self-sufficient in both social and professional environments. Question 9. The pursuit of mastery. Are you driven by growth, not validation? For most people, success is something external. It's defined by titles, wealth, recognition, and the validation of others. People seek approval, accolades, and the outward signs of accomplishment to feel fulfilled. But for the Sigma male, success is a deeply internal pursuit. He's not driven by the desire to impress others or gain their approval. Instead, his motivation comes from within. His true goal is evolution. He seeks mastery over his own abilities, knowledge, and personal development, not external validation. Whether it's refining a skill, learning something new, or developing a deeper sense of self-discipline, the Sigma's ambition is always focused on progress rather than praise. Unlike many who find joy in showing off their achievements or basking in public recognition, the Sigma tends to keep his progress private. You might find that you've dedicated countless hours to mastering a skill purely for the satisfaction of improvement, not because you want to be recognized for it. Perhaps you worked on a craft or honed an area of knowledge with no intention of boasting about it to others. The results of your efforts are not shared for approval. They are simply yours. You don't need an audience for your growth, and often you prefer to keep your successes to yourself. This privacy about your progress reflects your focus on the journey rather than the accolades that might come with it. If you're the type to avoid boasting about your achievements and instead quietly push yourself toward greater excellence, it's likely that you are harder on yourself than any external critic could ever be. The Sigma does not wait for others to point out his flaws or limitations. He's already aware of them and actively works to overcome them. He holds himself to the highest standards and is continually seeking ways to improve, often pushing beyond what others would consider the limit. The Sigma's commitment to growth is relentless, and unlike those who chase approval, it remains focused on the pursuit of excellence, the internal journey of becoming the best version of himself. This intrinsic drive, free from the need for validation, sets the Sigma apart as someone who is constantly evolving, quietly striving for mastery in every aspect of life. Final thoughts. Embracing the Sigma within. Embracing the Sigma male identity isn't about claiming superiority or indulging in ego. It's about recognizing a set of traits within yourself that may have previously been misunderstood or undervalued. Many of the qualities that might have once been seen as antisocial or too intense are, in fact, strengths. powerful tools for navigating a world overwhelmed by superficial noise and empty distractions. These traits, such as independence, sharp observation, and a preference for depth over surface-level interaction, set the Sigma apart from the majority who are caught up in the endless chase for validation or social approval. The Sigma male isn't a persona to aspire to, nor is it something to mimic or force yourself into. Rather, it's a reflection of the aspects of your own personality that are already present, just perhaps hidden or suppressed under the weight of societal expectations. If you found yourself resonating with the questions and insights shared in this guide, the next step isn't about trying to fit into a predefined mold. It's about acknowledging and embracing the Sigma within you. It's time to stop hiding those qualities that make you unique, to stop trying to conform, and instead allow yourself the freedom to be authentically you. The world is full of noise, social games, shallow interactions, and the constant pressure to conform. What it needs more than ever are men who can think independently, observe with precision, and who refuse to be swept up in the mindless pursuit of status. If this description aligns with you, there is no need to apologize for it. The Sigma doesn't seek approval from others because he understands that the only validation that matters is his own. So, if you recognize the Sigma within yourself, embrace it. Stay sharp. Stay silent. Stay you. You are already on the path of growth and mastery, and it's time to let go of any lingering doubts. You have the strength and insight to navigate the world on your own terms. And in doing so, you can thrive without ever needing to play the games that others do. Do you resonate with the ideas I shared in this video? Share your thoughts in the comments below. If you're interested in more content about Sigma males, explore the other videos on this channel. Thanks for watching.